Hello and good morning, everyone. Joe Justice here, coming to you live on, let's see, it's October 19th. It's Wednesday. That puts us right at hump day. It's going to be an amazing day today. I hope you're having a great morning, and I hope to start everything off right, promising you that if you give me 10 minutes, I will help you improve your goal setting, your choices, help you get a little bit closer to where you want to be in life with just 10 short minutes, and that's what I'm here for today. So today we're gonna start out talking about taking the smallest step. Yesterday we talked about having your ideal, and in talking about having your ideal, we talked about what was important was to create kind of a vacuum with your ideal. So there's this ideal version of yourself in the future, and there's where you want to be now. Let's see here. Let me get around my microphone. There's where you want to be now, and there's this difference in between. So what you want to do on a day-to-day basis is take the smallest step to get to that ideal version of you. Now, like I said, we talked yesterday about creating the ideal version of yourself. The ideal version of yourself is not another human being. It is not somebody else that you are going to copy or emulate. It's a version of you in the future. You're going to see yourself. You're going to believe in yourself. You're going to visualize yourself in a better state than you're at right now. That could mean anything to you. That could be some kind of scholastic achievement, like getting a new academic achievement, getting a new degree, getting a new certification, something like that. It could be a monetary achievement, making a certain amount of money, getting out of debt, or it could be a physical achievement, like lifting a certain amount of weight, or losing a certain amount of weight, being able to do a certain number of push-ups, something to that effect. That's all that matters. Whatever your goal is, whatever that big ideal version of yourself is, and along those same lines, you can absolutely have multiple different ideals. Your ideals need to be in the future. They need to be specified. Your ideals need to be in the future, and they need to be specified to you. You need to visualize yourself accomplishing those things. So once you visualize yourself, once you have a good picture of yourself in your mind, of what you're trying to achieve, what you want to achieve, then what you need to do is figure out the smallest possible thing you can do to achieve that goal. Does that really work? Can you really do something small? Absolutely yes. And not only that, but that's how you will achieve your goals in a long term. What ends up happening with a lot of people is they'll make big, huge, gigantic changes to try to reach some kind of a goal. Typically, like for example, with weight loss, they'll throw out all their food. They'll go on extreme crash diets where they'll only eat certain foods. They'll only eat, tuna every day and nothing else. And yes, they will have tremendous success. They'll lose lots of weights, but they white knuckle it through the whole experience. Once they white knuckle it through the whole experience, then after they achieve their goal, after they lose that 20 pounds or whatever it is, then all of a sudden, gradually, it all starts to come back. And the reason it starts to come back is because they didn't do the work necessary to build it into a lifestyle. Building it into a lifestyle is all about building it into a lifestyle is all about building habits. And the only way that you can build habits is through small incremental improvements day after day after day. There's all kinds of different research and ideas out there about what it takes to make a habit. Some people say that it takes about a month. Some people say it takes more like 6 months. And there's been tons of research on things like that. But the bottom line is you have to turn something into a habit for it to stick. Anything that's a habit will stick. So doing small things will stick because they'll turn into habits. And habits, Aristotle was the first to kind of put forth this idea that we are what we do every day. I think that's the exact quote. We are what we do on a daily basis. So it's all about small things that are repeatable. They're not steps exactly. A lot of people think of like progression as a step. You climb one step, you climb one step. They're not steps. They're a continuum. So if you're trying to lose weight, for example, you could The smallest possible thing that you could do is eliminate dessert. That's a really good small thing. And maybe you can't eliminate dessert from every one of your meals. Maybe you love chocolate, you love cookies, whatever it is. So no problem. Well, let's say we have a dessert. Let's say we have a sweet breakfast, and then we have dessert after lunch, then we have dessert after dinner. Well, maybe what we can do is quit having dessert after lunch. Or instead of having a sweet breakfast, have something like eggs or sausage or something like that, something savory, and we cut out that sweet breakfast like cereals, Pop Tarts, muffins, all that kind of stuff. None of that stuff's good for you, nutritious. So you start out with one sweet. So you pick one sweet, you eliminate that from your diet. And then the next day, you do the exact same thing. It's the small step. It's the small, tiny thing that you want to do. And you want to do that day after day after day after day. Now, the thing that you'll run into is that'll start to get hard. After a few days of that, you'll start thinking, man, oh man, oh man, I really want my sweet breakfast. I really want my dessert for lunch. And you'll want to go back. But if you stick with that small thing, if you stick with that small thing, that will eventually become a habit. And believe it or not, that craving will completely go away. What's really strange, especially when it comes to food with human beings, is most cravings are habits. Most cravings aren't actual hunger, which is really weird to think about. But that's why all of a sudden, like, you ever notice you right around noon you start getting hungry, like you start like there's no clock, like your brain doesn't have a clock, like your food's not it doesn't take exactly 8 hours to digest or anything. Like, it's this weird thing, and we think that we're hungry because we're getting this craving, but it's not. Your body's used to eating at noon. That's what's going on. Your body's used to it. So you've got all these cues outside of your body, like the sun, the time, what kind of physical activity, how many hours you've been awake, all that kind of stuff is kind of feeding into it. And you're thinking, oh, I'm hungry, but it's not really. Your body's just saying, oh, this is typically the time that we eat. Right now is the time that we eat. So now I want to eat now. So you take that one small thing, eliminate that one small thing. Say that dessert after lunch. You eliminate that one small thing. Now, that's going to be difficult at first. And believe it or not, it's small, right? But you're able to do it. And that's the key. That's the magic. If you pick something small, you can do it. And if you do it, then you'll do it consistently. And if you do it consistently, then it will change you. Now, if you pick a bunch of big things and you try to do them all at once, you won't do them. You'll try to do them. You'll do half of it one day, and then you'll skip the next day, and then you'll come back and you'll feel guilty, and you'll do 3/4 of it the next day, and then maybe one day you'll really white knuckle and you'll really bear down and you'll be able to pull it off for a day or two, maybe even 3, but then you'll just crash and go back to the way that you were. Then you'll feel guilty again. So instead of going through that cycle, just pick one small thing. And then after you get that one small thing taken care of for a week or two, then add another small thing. So, say you're trying to lose weight, you've got the sweet breakfast, you've got the dessert after lunch, and you've got the dessert after dinner. So let's eliminate that sweet breakfast, and we're not going to have muffins or cakes or cereals or donuts or anything like that for breakfast anymore. Do that for a couple of weeks. Those cravings for those sweets in the morning will go away. Then, let's go ahead and switch over to something else. Let's eliminate that lunch dessert. Do that for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden, what seemed like it would be impossible and difficult, now you're not having any sweets before dinner time. And it was seamless, and it was easy, and you were able to do it. And since you were able to do it, you actually did it. Now, whoa, isn't that a crazy idea? So finding that big ideal, now just randomly choosing things to eliminate, that's not going to get you any closer to your goal. And that's why you have to have that big ideal. Once you have that big ideal, then you can backfill that with all the little steps. But the little steps have to be very small, very consistent, and you have to do them day after day after day after day. And they will build on each other. You'll start with skipping breakfast, your dessert for breakfast, your sweet breakfast, and then you'll skip your sweet for lunch, and then maybe you'll skip your sweet for dinner, and then maybe, hey, let's eliminate all snacking, so no snacking between meals, and then, hey, maybe let's reduce the portions for lunch a little bit. Now we're into a year. Now it's taken us a year, but instead of doing this big crash thing where we say, oh, I'm only eating 1,000 calories a day and nothing but kale and tuna water. That's all I'm going to eat all day long. And you'll do that for a week or two, and then it'll be insufferable and you won't be able to do it anymore. So instead of doing all that, it's going to take you 6 months to a year, but instead you kind of cut back, so that it's sustainable and that you can do it. All right, that's it for today, guys. Put that into action today. Pick one small step. Let me know in the comments one small step that you could do to get yourself closer to your ideal self. And I will talk to you tomorrow.